last meeting before Purda of the Northumberland Local Area Council, and we've got some apologies for absence that I was aware of. Griga Roughhead, I believe, has entered his apologies. Are there any other apologies, please?
Yes, Councillor Clark.
Thank you. Are there any others from the floor? No. The minutes of the meeting of the last local area council was held on Thursday the 25th of January as previously circulated. Are they agreed as a true record?
Yes, Chair.
Is that agreed? Does anyone disagree? Thank you. No, we'll proceed and accept them as a true record. I'll sign them when I get hold of them. Thanks, Michelle. I don't mean Michelle. Who do I mean? I've got Leslie there. Leslie. Disclosure of members' interests. Are there any disclosures of members' interests? I take that as a no. Public question time. Have we received any questions from the public? Michelle?
No, we haven't.
Sorry, we haven't.
No, we haven't received any questions.
Fine. There are no questions.
Chair, can I just ask, is Councillor Bridget here? Chair, I'm just asking if Councillor Bridget is here. I'm
listening. I would think you would have answered if he had been, and the answer is no, not to my knowledge. Michelle, has he said anything that you're aware of?
No, I can confirm that Councillor Bridget isn't present on the call at the moment.
Thank you. That's understood. The next item is item 5. If I've missed anything. Petitions. Are there any petitions to deal with? Michelle?
No, there's no petitions.
Thank you. We're moving through quite rapidly. And we now get to item 6, which is the police and community safety update. What we've got is not on vision, but we've got on phone a number of police officers, starting with Les Robson. And I think, can I now go to you, Les, I've got that right, to introduce yourself and the other police officers that you've got with us. What I'm going to ask you to do is, first of all, introduce yourself and then give us some kind of brief resume of police matters of interest to members. You now have the floor.
Hi, this is Les Robson. I'm the neighbourhood sergeant for Morpeth. Also present is Sergeant Sykes, who's the neighbourhood sergeant for Alnwick, and also Sergeant Budge, who's just started as the neighbourhood sergeant for Berwick. I'm hoping also on the line is Shauna Vickers, who was the sergeant for Berwick also. John Swan obviously apologises for not being able to be here, but he's covering as Chief Inspector at the moment. So he's had other duties that he's got to attend to. So as far as I'm concerned, obviously my side is predominantly Amble for yourselves. Over the past 12 months, in relation to Amble, there has seen drops in certain crime types, such as traditional crime types, such as burglaries and the like, but increases in antisocial behaviour and some drugs-related issues. We're actively tackling these with my neighbourhood team and also the response teams, and working with our partners as well. We've identified issues in the Church Street and Queen Street area of Amble, and we are in the process of arranging meetings with highways agencies, lighting agencies and the like to try and deal with those issues.
Shauna Vickers. Join the meeting.
There we go. And we're also looking at obviously an operation very shortly in the Amble area with a lot of resources, including resources from our operations department, actively targeting the potential for drugs use in the area, antisocial behaviour and any violence and disorder, which we're hoping is going to be directly affecting the offenders in that area. In general, crime has dropped down because of lockdown. And we're forward planning as well for the removal of lockdown or the reduction of lockdown with operations such as Cerberus, which is looking at the opening of licensed premises and restaurants and the like, as well as us working with our engagement partners about the local coastal areas. And that is basically it for Amble at present. What I'll do is I'll hand you over to Alnwick, and Paul can talk about that.
Hello, Paul Sykes, covering the Alnwick and Rothbury area. like Sergeant Robson said, we've had a drop in traditional crimes over the last year. However, we have had an increase, obviously, in some areas, such as COVID and antisocial behaviour linked to that. In Alnwick area, that's mainly people visiting second homes, people holidaying in times of lockdown. So we've obviously attended those and engaged with those people. We've had a reduction in our contact with schools. As you can appreciate, they've obviously been closed most of the last year. We're now stepping that up again now that schools are open, and we're engaging more with schools. We're obviously mindful of what's going to happen in the coastal areas this year. Obviously, there was an increase in tourism last year. We've got some plans together, all three sergeants for the Berwick, Morpeth and Alnwick area, are looking at joint operations for the coastal area. Obviously, we had a huge increase in everything associated with that. And that's where we are. So we're obviously aware of that, we're mindful and we're planning for that. And then on other things, we've been very proactive with the housing department at Northumberland Council. We've done quite a bit of housing enforcement in the Alnwick area. We've got currently a closure notice in place for Narrogate Court in Alnwick. And we've got a few things in the pipeline. We just had a problem tenant evicted from the Pottergate area of Alnwick. So we're actively working with our partners there to reduce antisocial behaviour between neighbours. Thank you.
And I believe I just heard that Shona was on the line there, so she can cover Berwick.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah. Just a quick update then. I think it's already been spoken about by Les and Paul. The general crimes is down for Berwick as a whole, and like I say, I think COVID has a big part to play in that. One thing we have seen when you look at the figures arising is antisocial behaviour. However, that is linked directly to COVID because all the jobs for COVID are categorised as antisocial behaviour. We have had a challenging year really in terms of we had a county line identified in Berwick, which we've managed to dismantle, and most of the offenders for that have had court dates as they haven't been dealt with already at court. That work is ongoing to try and increase the links between Berwick and the bordering towns, just to try and prevent anything arising again of that nature in Berwick. We've had the introduction of the rural crime team who, as the name would suggest, pick up a lot of the rural crimes and look quite in detail at the intelligence coming in around crimes committed in rural areas, which are quite often high value. Echoing what Paul said, we've had high numbers of COVID-related incidents. A lot of them are in relation to second homes or holiday homes, which our officers have dealt with. We also have, particularly when lockdown was eased middle of last year over the summer, an influx of visitors to the area, which has caused a number of issues, and a number of things have arisen from that. There is work in place to try and work with partners, particularly, and the local councillors to try and put in place solutions rather than being reactive towards the summer. Obviously, the pubs are starting to open, or should be, over the next month or so. So that's been looked at as well, with some work being done around the holiday parks and the licensees, just to make sure we can preempt the issues that may cause. Other than that, I think that's about it.
Good. Does that complete the introduction from all the officers present, Rob?
Just, if I can very quickly, it's Duncan Budge. I'm the...
sorry.
Eric. It was just really to say hello. Shona's moved on, so I'm her replacement. So just kind of sitting in on the meeting just to get my name out there and say hello to everybody, and hopefully meet up. I'll be able to speak to everybody fairly soon.
Good, that's excellent. Well, as you will expect, there are a number of questions that members will wish to be asking. I do ask members to use their electronic hand, and I've got two already. And I've got a good relationship with Sergeant Sykes and Alnwick, and so I'm not going to put them on the spot here because I've been doing that for the last few days.
Inspector Gordon, Inspector.
Oh, Inspector, is he?
Oh no, Paul. Sorry, I thought you meant. Sorry, I thought you meant John.
Not yet, Stephen.
That was a quick one. No, Stevens, Inspector Swan, I know you've just joined us, was unable to attend, so Sergeant Sykes is here in his place. Where was I going to say there? Oh, yes. I'm going to ask for those in the order that they put their hands up, and I've written it down. Your first, Councillor Watson. Jeff, yours, please. Thank you. Just keep your hands up if you haven't already done so.
Thank you. Can I address, was it Sergeant Wilson who's responsible for Amble? Robson, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 or 3 points. The first one is, how do I get in contact with you, Sergeant Robson? You know, we always seem to have difficulty in contacting someone when I have an issue. And I'm not talking about members of the public, I'm talking about me with specific council sort of issues. I find it very difficult in the police system to make contact. So that's one question. The second question would be, we have our members' small schemes, which I don't know whether you're aware of, but this is money that we can contribute to certain things to make them happen. Last year, I gave almost £3,000 to Northumberland Police for ANPR. I think that's what it's called, you know, the automatic number plate recognition thing. And I've never been told whether that's actually been installed or not. And apart from it being probably polite to know that, I just wonder if it has happened. I'm not expecting you to give me any details, because obviously they have to be anonymous, otherwise they don't work, but just a confirmation that it's actually happened and my money has been spent. I think you would wish to do that if you were in my position as well. And the last thing, I think Amble, you've got some good officers there, and I'm very pleased with the way things are happening. But we are expecting problems in the summer. We had problems last year, not untypical, I think, of the coast. Are you making contingency plans to try to perhaps do more traffic controlling work, people parking, making obstructions, etc., during the summer? So that's my 3 questions to you, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but unfortunately, I haven't had a policeman at the town council for a while. They're on the agenda, but unfortunately don't seem to turn up too often. So perhaps you could help me a bit, especially with a contact point, please.
Okay, all yours.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, okay. So in relation to contacting us, I can be contacted via email. It's quite a long-winded email address. If you've got a pen and paper there, I can read that out to you now, if that's in order.
Would that be the easiest way?
Alternatively, you can get in touch with us through what's called the Contact Our Team. So if you go to the website, there's a section on the Northumberland Police website called, I think it's just Contact Us, and there's a document which you can fill in, which gets sent to us. It'll get allocated to me, and then I can obviously make contact with yourself with the full details of obviously my mobile number and my work mobile number and my email address. If that would suffice, we can go from there.
I think I'd be happy with your phone number, because I think you've just actually explained why there's difficulty in contacting you, because I'm sorry, Jeff, go on websites and do all of that. So
can I interrupt you, Jeff? I think there's a possible solution here for all the police officers. If they were to send in their email addresses, because I know they're extremely complicated, to the clerk here, can this be done, Leslie? However we handle this, can this be sent? Can you send in your email addresses, please, and your contact mobiles, if that's what you use, and we'll ensure they go immediately to all members of the council for their appropriate, those appropriate officers. If you put your the areas you cover and your contact email addresses and your contact numbers, that would be very much appreciated. I have a really good relationship. I know how it works. On sites does the same with me. I've got absolutely no difficulty there. But if you could do it for the rest, I think that would be the right way forward, if everyone agrees with that.
Not a problem at all. We'll sort that out, no bother at all. In relation to the ANPR, it is an ongoing process, and there has been ANPR systems put into place, which I'm aware of. Obviously, as you said, I can't disclose their exact locations and their usage, because we're covered and duty bound by certain things in relation to that. But it is an ongoing process. I can quite happily chase that up and find out where we're at in relation to that process and provide an update from that side of things. In relation to the forward planning, the parking and other issues with residents, obviously antisocial behaviour and stuff like that, we're looking at forward planning for that over the Christmas. that's going too far ahead over the summer period. But also we're working closely with the council in relation to what's referred to as the Coastal Summit, which they're looking at the parking side of things, the media and communications proposals, and we're working very closely with them in relation to that, so that the parking enforcement officers are in the correct place at the right time. They're supported by us where needed. So it is something that we are definitely looking at and forward planning and progressing in relation to those issues.
Was there a third question not answered?
I think he's answered all of my questions.
Okay, sorry, happy with that. I've got three hands up, by the way. I've got Guy, I've got Catherine, and I've got Georgina. So you're next, Guy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. For the police officers who don't know, I'm Guy. I represent Belford, Bamburgh, Sea Houses, Beaton, all that stretch there. I've heard the work you're doing on the coastal issues with the AONB, and that all sounds very positive. I've got a comment and then a question. One of the main complaints we get as councillors is about low-level drug dealing, and residents always say to us, we know who they are, you know who they are, the police must know who they are, why is no one doing anything about it? Well, it seems over the last couple of weeks that something has been done about it, and quite a lot of them that are known to the local community have been apprehended. I'm guessing that's to do with the county lines in Berwick that was mentioned.
Yeah, Duncan Budge, I think I can answer some of that one. It's partly to do with it. You alluded to, people know what's going on. We have an idea, but we only act on the information, so it depends on the quality of the information. So certainly some of the quality of information that's been coming through, the police have been able to act on. But yes, you're right, some of the county line stuff has affected that. But like I say, it's the quality of the information we get, and if the information's there, we're more than happy to act on it. The difficulty being is people say, well, we know this. Well, how do you know? When you actually scratch the surface, we need a little bit more than that in order to act on it. So,
the police are higher burden proof than village crack. But when you see it happening with your own eyes, it's hard not to know what's going on. But my final question was about the community speed watch scheme. I've been attempting to get one going in Bamburgh for a while, and we got as far as getting some volunteers, but it sort of died a death, and no one really knew what was happening with it. So what's happening with the speed watch scheme, please?
Yeah, it's Paul Sykes speaking from covering Annick. I'll just nip in here and speak for Sergeant Bush because he's brand new to the department. He's not aware of the speed watch scheme. That's been put on hold due to the COVID restrictions. So members of the public can't go out at the moment and conduct speed watch, but the officers are still doing it. I've got 2 officers out today in the Annick area doing speed watch as we speak. The recruitment is handled centrally by headquarters, and people can apply, and they go through a vetting and interview system. We don't have direct control over that. Obviously it's dealt with centrally, but people can put their names forward to us, and we can pass them on to that department that deals with it. And when COVID restrictions are released, I would like to think that they'll be on with that again. It's just that we can't have members of the public out in the street at the moment due to the guidelines.
Yeah, that's perfectly reasonable. I'll pass that on to the people who volunteered and get them to apply centrally.
Thank you very much.
I mean, if they come through to us and express an interest, we can point them in the right direction.
Good stuff. Thank you, Paul. Georgina?
Thank you. What have I got here? I've got one piece of positive feedback, one piece of feedback following what Jeff Watson said, and then just a general question. So the positive feedback is that I think the police in Berwick, compared to elsewhere, adopted a really good approach with the sort of COVID regulations, adopting that, what is the saying, encourage, engage and explain rather than being really heavy-handed. So I think they got the balance right, so that's to be commended. Following on from what Jeff Watson said, I agree that there's a bit of a contact issue, because I sometimes find I want to give feedback to the police. So to say something like, there's been issues of you know, strong smell of cannabis in this area. It really seems to be happening a lot more. So it's not immediate reporting a crime, it's more feedback or information. And just like I, you know, exchange emails and correspondence with council officers, you know, many on a daily basis, I find that sort of contact, and when I do send emails in, it's like, oh, if it's a crime, ring 101. So that just sort of general full contact communication, I think, could be improved. So I do agree with Jeff. And then the final point is, one of the big things that's been happening over this summer, and you can have some sympathy with them because it's been awful, particularly for younger people, you know, being stuck in at a time when they start going out with their friends, socializing, and that cusp of childhood to adulthood. But there's been lots of instances over the last few months of antisocial behaviour, basically finding parks and things and trashing it and leaving loads of litter, which the public are obviously moaning about, and a bit unfair. They're saying, oh, where are our police and so on. But is any of that sort of preempted? So, you know, if it's a Friday night or Saturday night, or you've seen groups around and there's been a little bit of reports, is any of that sort of preempted, or do you just proactive? Because this is happening on a regular basis, and it's just to feedback the public, as I say, unfairly are saying, oh, where are the police? Kids keep doing this. It's been happening for the last few months and they're not doing anything about it. So that's my sort of points in question.
Okay, thank you. Any answers there?
Yeah, it's Paul Sykes again. I know it's covering Bury, but Sergeant Budge only started a couple of days ago, so I'll just answer that. We've got Operation Nightwing, which covers all three areas. It's our Darker Nights operations. We obviously are aware of the ASB hotspots in the Morpeth, Berwick and the Alnwick area, and we actively target those. So we are aware of them. So yeah, we're out in the evenings in those locations. Regarding email addresses, we do have, each office has an office email address as well as our personal, which we do monitor as the sergeants. So yeah, we can let you have the office emails, our personal emails, and obviously the contact numbers, and we can go through that. Obviously, if it's urgent, it's got to be 999-101. Obviously, appreciate if we're away from work, we might not pick that email up for a couple of days. So it needs, anything urgent needs to be reported. But something like that, we pass it on intelligence. That's fine. You can email any of us and we'll sort that out. We appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, just in relation to that contact side of things, obviously, we do need to stress that any incidents, even non-urgent, to be honest, needs to be reported through 101. If it's just for general information, then that's fine, get in touch with us. But obviously, we work a shift pattern where we're on rest days and stuff, and we might not even answer our phones. And unfortunately, due to a recent change in the law, there's an element that if something is reported to us, we're duty bound to deal with that. And if we're off duty, then it puts us in a very awkward situation. In relation to the other side of things, I know Shauna's on the line. I don't know whether she wants to answer any of it in relation to the youth disorder and stuff. No?
Is there a contribution from Shauna? No, would seem not. No. Okay.
Sorry to interrupt, Dr. Budge again. I can, like Paul was saying, I just came into post on Monday. But in those 3 days since, we have been working on the ASB through the youths identified in the last couple of weeks. We're actually going around with COVID enforcement letters for the parents. So obviously there's breaches there, so we're making, on the engagement side, we're actually giving the parents letters, making them aware that the children are out there causing issues and they may be subject to COVID fines. So although it's not that, we are aware of it and we are trying to address it through other legislation like through COVID.
Great, thank you. Welcome on board.
Yeah, thank you. And I may have said, I often, like many people here, get anecdotal comments from the public about so-and-so having done X, Y, and Z, and it's happened so often, why hasn't something been done? And then you find it was never reported to the police. If the police don't know about it, they can't take action. So reporting is so important. I think that's so important to emphasise that. Sorry, I just came in there. I think next you're Catherine. You're next, Catherine. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And Thank you to the officers for coming today. I'm a councillor for Berwick North, and I've had a slew of correspondence with Shona recently on some of the antisocial behaviour and the parks and some damage that she's aware of. And I know that the group, the Friends of Castle Parks, want an officer to come. So I hope you'd be able to attend, Duncan. Welcome on board, welcome here. And you've got big shoes to fill with Shona, she's been fantastic. Good as well that the work on the county lines, pleased about that. And also I've been working and funding the police with projects with the school in Berwick, so I hope we continue with that. So yes, thanks very much. And I would like to see, you mentioned the Operation Night Wing, is it? I would like to see more officers, obviously. I know you are stepping up, and I wanted to ask one question actually that Shona mentioned. She said there's a current PO covering the area. What is that? What is PSPO? Is that police support something? Anyway, that's my question there. Thank you.
Did you get that question? Did the police pick that one up? I think you wanted to know what a community support officer, CSO, is that what you meant?
Is that the PSPO? That means the police support PO, covering the area, yeah.
Can that be can that be confirmed, Northumberland Police?
If it's PCSO, then it's obviously Police Community Support Officer. So they are the community support officers. They're out and about, normally in the blue shirts, with body armour on, who deal with quite a lot of our antisocial behaviour. So that might be what she was talking about.
Yeah. How many do you have in the area? In Berwick, do you know?
There's 3 PCSOs at the moment that work out of Berwick.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll move on to, I should be using first names. Councillor Patterson, pardon me, Wendy, you've got the floor for your question.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Who is the policeman that would deal with the Long Houghton area, which takes in Kristen Bank and Powburn? Would it be 2 different officers that would deal with that?
Hello, it's Paul Sank speaking. That comes under the Annick area.
Right, lovely. Just wanted to mention speeding. I did get a call from someone in Powburn. Well, in fact, I got several calls and several emails about it. Someone racing through. Now, it was really great to get the speed camera van to Powburn approximately 3 years ago, but they can't be there every single day. And it was just that there was concern amongst some of the residents about the speeding seems to be picking up. And I've also had a call from someone in Kristen Bank, and they've just received 3 interactive signs as well as 2 chicanes, 3 chicanes. But they still feel the traffic is not slowing down. So I just wondered, you know, if an officer has just a little bit of time, if they could drive through those areas, it would just make that much difference.
Yes, in relation to Long Houghton, officers there this afternoon doing speed watch. They've got 3 villages on the list. There's Lesbury, Long Houghton, and I think Dennick was the other area, so they're out this afternoon. Right. Regarding Powburn, I've got some figures. I haven't got them to hand because I was going to give them to the Powburn Parish Council, but they inquired about the use of the camera van, and I've got the stats for the last year and how many people caught speeding. And I think you're talking in the hundreds that have been caught speeding there. So that's a regular location for the speed camera van. Plus, we do our own speed watch in Powburn and all the other areas. We do on a regular basis all the villages, and then if we detect a problem, we also contact the highways and ask for the speed strips. There's currently a set of speed strips in a shill bottle, and we get the data from that. We can pass that to parish councils, and that's very useful. It gives us an idea of the days and the time of speeding. But it is a constant complaint throughout the villages, and we are aware of it, and we are dealing with it.
And like I said, once COVID and restrictions end, the community part of the speed watch will obviously come to the fore again. But we're still doing it. We always have been all through COVID. We've been out during the daylight dealing with it.
Much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wendy. I'll come to you straight in 2 seconds, but I just want to add something I'm aware of with the constant complaints about speeding, which is obviously almost everywhere. Big drivers don't just speed in one location; they tend to ignore it everywhere. If there's a particular stretch of road where perhaps some further measures are needed, and the officers of the council need to be persuaded to spend money on it, they will carry out speed survey checks with cables. They're highly accurate. And, you know, there's no argument then about what the actual facts are. It's otherwise anecdotal. So I do recommend to my colleagues, councillors, that if there's a particular stretch of road where you feel there's a particular problem, a speed cables can be installed and the actual evidence provided to show what not just the average speeds are, but what the peaks are and when. Thank you. I'll come to Councillor Bridget. Stephen, you've got the floor.
Thank you, Gordon. I'll be honest, I can't really fault them, the police in my area. When I pick up the phone, whether I'm ringing 101 or whether I'm ringing Paul or John or whatever, when I ring, if they don't respond, they'll ring us back. In terms of whether it be emails or ringing their mobile or whatever, just to update them on stuff that's going on. I think I spoke to Paul twice yesterday, and you kept that promotion quiet as well, Paul. But what I will say is what we've been doing recently is having discussions, obviously, with the police, with the Forestry Commission and with the National Park as well. As we start to ease out of these lockdown measures, we're going to see an influx of a lot more people coming back to rural Northumberland, which is obviously what we want. But at the same time, even at the moment, we seem to be getting an increasing number of individuals on their off-road bikes or quads. And we had a particular incident last weekend, which I've obviously raised with John Swan, where the farmers in the Coquet Valley kind of at the top end turn a blind eye to it, usually in the summer. But when you've got heavily pregnant yows and soon to be lambs at foot, it's not good when those bikes are chasing livestock through the fields and scaring them. So it seems. I've seen on social media a kind of the word green zone being used in the various off-roading biking forums for the Upper Coquet Valley. I'm not aware of any green zone that allows it to happen, certainly from a perspective of the National Park, the Forestry Commission or the MOD, who are the landowners up there. So I'm just wondering if it's some sort of miscommunication or if it's something on the grapevine that's now being passed around, because it seems to be encouraging more of them, particularly at the weekends, to the top end of the Coquet Valley, where it's causing some problems for the farmers up there. But I've raised it with John, and obviously I think you'll follow it up. But in terms of contacting the police, I can't say I've ever had any problems.
Yes, thanks, Stephen. It's Paul Sykes speaking again. Regarding the inland tourist areas, we've got an operation called Operation Acorn that we run. That's in conjunction with the National Park and the National Trust, where we work together for certain areas like Simonside, Thornton Woods, and we do concentrate on these areas that have been obviously heavily hit over the winter with visitor numbers. That might continue into the summer, and we're aware of that. Regarding the motorcycles, we work closely with our colleagues at Hexham area, because there's a pattern where these vehicles, these motorbikes and quads, don't come up from the home addresses on the road. They come up in back of vans or trailers, and they tend to park over the Hexham side and then out onto the hills to undertake an activity called green laners, where they come over onto the Rockbury side. We are working with our colleagues at Hexham to target when they park up in these locations, and there was a big meeting last week with the National Park and the police to look at these issues, because obviously once they're out on the hills, difficult to catch them, so it's easier when they're actually arriving and dropping off the bike. So we are aware of that and the problems they cause, cutting of fences, damage to fields, worrying livestock. We're aware of it and we are dealing with it. Further that, Les Robson, further that, obviously, we're aware that off-road bikes in the Cresswell area and up towards Amble as well, it causes problems, and we are looking at that. Off-road biking in general is a force-wide issue, and it's been discussed recently at a high level in relation to those issues, and we are putting in place things, and we're working closely with our colleagues in Durham as well to identify these vehicles that are coming into our areas. We're looking at putting out social media processes in relation to it, as well as linking in with the organised groups, because it's almost becoming organised. There was an organised job at Linton recently, which were broke up. So we're aware that the off-road bike thing is getting worse and could get even worse with the weather improving. And it is something that we're looking at force-wide in relation to that.
Thank you. That's an interesting answer. Everybody knows I'm a keen motorcyclist, but I can also tell you that if I go off-road, it's because I've made a big mistake. Thank you. So are there any other questions from members? No. Well, to the police, thank you so much. That was a really interesting, useful, and in my experience, almost unprecedented presentation to the local area council. I think we'll have them again, although I can't speak for the future, can I? So thank you so much for coming. You don't need to sit through the rest of it. I express my thanks, and also the importance, can I just remind you, you're going to send in your details to the clerk of your contact details so we can all have them, and the areas you cover, so we're all clear about that. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, members. That was very interesting. We now come to item 7. And I know we've got with us Graham and Bob on highways and local services. So can I ask who else to start? Graham, I'll ask you to start with a verbal update on highways. Whatever you wish to tell us, bring us up to date. Then I'll bring Bob in and we'll take questions. Actually, I might take questions first of you, Graham, then I'll go to Bob. Okay? That's what I'll do. You're on mute, Graham. Still on mute.
There you go.
Sorry.
That's better.
You'd think I would know after a year. Okay. Hi, everyone. So we're coming to the end of a year. It's been a difficult year. But despite the pandemic and some challenging weather recently, Highways have managed to deliver a huge programme of work, double what we would normally carry out in an average year. The programme contained 205 major carriageway and footway schemes across the county, and as of the end of March, we will have delivered 176 of those schemes. Out of the remaining schemes, a handful will be deferred, but the rest will be completed in April or May. So out of those 205 county-wide, 59 are in the northern area and 49 are complete, with 9 of the 10 outstanding programmed in the next few weeks. The only one that is deferred indefinitely at the moment is North Road Berwick. We're still waiting for the flood team to come up with a solution to the problems there. So recently completed LTP schemes in the north include Hazen, Wilkinson Park, Alwynton, Grange Road, Shilbottle, Warkworth Avenue and Dale Place, Warkworth, Chat Hill, Ford and Eels, Shipton Dean Loop, and Branxton to the Scottish border. Coming up in the next few weeks, we have 2 schemes at Norham, which I think is underway now. The Peth at Wooler, Percy Terrace and Louvain Terrace at Berwick, North End Long Fram, Garley to Cold Rife, just outside of Rothbury, the Low Road to Weldon from Rothbury, North Middleton and Dodo. We've also got 2 footpath schemes in Alnwick and Church Street Amble footpath scheme. So on top of all that, my team continued to deliver various traffic safety schemes, 20-mile-an-hour zones, dropped curbs, car park improvements, traffic regulation orders, etc., etc. The list goes on. We've also got a number of bridge schemes ongoing at the minute. I'm sure you'll have noticed that the pothole situation is pretty dire at the moment following the floods and snow event. But we've thrown extra resource at this problem, so should be getting on top of that now. We've also got crews out clearing and jetting gullies every day, and the COVID signage in town centres has just been renewed. So that's a brief summary of where we're at. There's a lot going on which I'll have missed there, but I'm happy to take your questions, which I'm sure I'll pick up the things I've missed.
Right, thank you. And I'm taking names of hands up. Please use the hand system, but I'll use the chair's privilege to ask the first question, Graham. I've got a couple that are obviously parochial. I make personally reports on the Mayrise system about damage. You mentioned Percy Terrace, but yeah, you said Berwick. There must be a Percy Terrace in Berwick as well as Alnwick, because yes. I reported 14 potholes in Percy Terrace and Percy Street, Alnwick, and yes. I walk down there every day, and whilst I was acknowledged on the council website system, I'm a bit concerned because I was hoping to have seen something by now. Can you have a look and see where this report has gone, because they are pretty bad, and it's a difficult street anyway. So I would be grateful for that being looked at.
When did you report them? When did you report that, Gordon?
Oh, a month ago.
Really? Yeah.
Yes. So something's gone wrong. If you wouldn't mind, I've got an acknowledgement, so I'm a bit concerned. So that's that one. And the other you mentioned, I'm pleased to hear about the the pavements being done out. There's two sets, Swansfield Park Road and Wagonway Road around the corner. Are these likely to come reasonably soon, do you think, Graham?
Should be in April, Gordon, yeah.
Fine. And finally, today and elsewhere, and I was about to send you a photograph, road markings. Some of the road markings in crucial parts of the town, I've observed myself and had commented to me, are really badly faded. And I wondered, is this your area? Is it something we would regard in the same way as road repairs? Because obviously at junctions, it can cause misunderstandings from drivers. And I'm looking at areas like the War Memorial at Alnwick and outside the tower at Alnwick, Bondgate, before we closed it. Are these things that should be reported via the council system, or can I just email you with a photograph and say, would you have a look at these, please, because they are badly faded and need redoing. I don't know how it's scheduled, so if you could help me with that, please.
Yes, either way, Gordon. You can either report them online or just send them to me. It's generally something that we do more of in the summer months.
Yes,
because obviously when there's salt on the road, it's not ideal for road markings. So that's probably why they're fading so badly at the minute.
Right, and you're going to have a look at the other one I mentioned, Percy Terrace and Percy Street, and you'd come back to me if there's something gone wrong, won't you? Because I'm a bit anxious about it. As I have to walk down there every day, I obviously get comments every day. Okay.
Yeah, will do. Yeah.
Thanks very much. And Trevor, you're next, and I've got Georgina, Jeff, and Guy.
Thanks very much, Gordon. Congratulations to the highways team. We are delivering schemes now that we've been waiting years for. And, I've been a councillor for Hazen for about 30 years, and we've been waiting for a new road surface. At last, we're getting one. So, very, very grateful there, very grateful. But just one or two road issues. I have sent you an email. This was Ian Murray from the Old Gardens in Swarland about the road verges being churned up and sort of eaten away, and they are. That little stretch of road from Old Swarland itself up to Swarland Village, the sides of the roads are being eroded. I don't know what we can do there, putting some hardcore in, but it's a nice road surface up there. Hasn't been long since we've put a new road surface down, and I just feel, at the moment it would be a shame to lose the sides of the roads because of erosion. And I don't know, it is a very small road, and with all the construction that's happened in Swarland, there is a lot of pressure on that little track of road. My second issue is it's the road out along Framlington down to Old Swarland, the Swarland Road. You know, it always seems to have water on it. Now, I know Mr. Garland from Lone Tree House has complained about his house being potentially flooded, which I think Mitch Young is looking into. But, you know, it does annoy me because I travel that way to work. There always seems to be water running down. So, you know, I don't think it's always rainwater. I think, you know, there must be, you know, Northumbrian water, something gone astray with the water main or something. But again, you know, water running on our roads just erodes, potholes, takes the edges away. If we could do something about that. Thirdly, just out of my patch, but somewhere that's very obvious to me, there's a road sign at just opposite the Northumberland Arms in West Thurston. I reported this in December. It's still sort of hanging, the road sign. It's one of these road signs that's quite high up, so people walk underneath it. It is sort of twisted road sign. And, you know, we're shortly putting a teepee up at the Northumberland Arms, and I worry about people walking under it. Finally, just hoping to see my bush shelter in Shilbottle sometime soon. I know you've been working on a base for that. And I was just wondering if there was any update on the chicanes in Long Fram. Obviously, the work's been paused there, and I was wondering, was that about to move on? That's me finished, Graham. Dialogue from Teethorn.
Okay, I'll address a couple of those. Yes, we're aware of this, the verges to Old Swarland. It's been like that for some time now, I think. It was very similar on the Old Swarland to Felton Road, wasn't it?
Yes,
for a long time.
Yeah.
I think we need a similar approach to what we did there.
Excellent.
The Long Framlington to Swarland, whereabouts is the water on there, Trevor?
It's sort of Lone Tree House, just about, what, 700 yards down the road.
Right.
You know, it does run all the time. It does.
Right. We have got an LTP scheme in next year's programme for that stretch.
Yeah.
I'll make sure they have a look at that. I'll have a look at the sign at the Northumberland Arms, just for everyone's information. I'm putting a signs team together early next year because I've noticed how many signs are damaged around the county. So I'll make a note of that one. What was the other thing? Oh yes, yeah. Chicanes.
And the Shilbottle bush shelter.
Chicanes, I will chase that up and come back to you.
Lovely.
Shilbottle bush shelter, I believe, is in the hands of the structures team at the minute. They're designing this retaining wall. Yeah. I'll find out where that's up to as well.
Thanks very much indeed. Thank you, Graham. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Trevor. You're next, Georgina.
Thank you. Three things. The resurfacing on the hard standing of Main Road Spittal just makes such a difference. Residents are full of compliments about that. 70, 80 grand, fantastically spent, makes such a difference. If we can just have the road, which is on the next LTP, done ASAP, so there isn't that striking contrast, that would be super. I mentioned last time about all the huge amount of potholes near the shop area, the back end of the Highcliffe estate. Now, what's happened, a resident told me today, is they have come and patched up the potholes. And I did tell them that, you know, until we get that resurfaced, that'll be the interim solution. But I think some residents came out and gave the guys a bit of a hard time, saying, well, it needs a proper solution and it's not their fault. And one of the residents sort of had a go at their neighbours for having a go at the workmen. But it's just if any money becomes available, and they're talking about future LTPs, if we can just keep that high up, because that is out of all the areas get complaints. I probably get half of all complaints about potholes now, or that area. Other places have been done now, and that really needs to be a priority. And the final thing is Osborne Road has just been made a one-way. It's near the school as part of the rollout of 20 miles an hour. And it's one of these schemes which a few people are complaining about, but I think that always happens when people get used to it. And when there's a consultation, 29 out of 30 were nothing but praise about the scheme. I think this always happens. But one thing it is doing is creating a lot more traffic going down Osborne Road, and parking issue with the school. And it's just something to look into. There is a grass area at the end, which would be very useful additional car parking space. I mean, it could be, you know, school times, 20-minute drop off and car parking another time. Now, I know this is a new scheme, and you'd be saying, you know, yourself or whoever, there's maybe small schemes and all the rest of it. But I just wondered if that could be assessed as part of the feedback to look at. And there is space there for assisting with the drop off and just with the car parking, which has been created now with this one-way system. So it's just to put down a marker on that, as I say, the scheme is being monitored.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that scheme. I haven't been involved in that one, but I'll speak to Richard O'Neill, see whether they've had any similar feedback.
Yeah.
I've just had an email off Mitch confirming that they've been to Highcliffe. I don't know if it was today or not. Was it today?
It sounds like it's early today or yesterday, but very recently, yeah.
I had a look at it myself a couple of weeks ago. It is in a hell of a state. And I've put it on my list of priorities.
Brilliant. Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, if say North Road or somewhere else is delayed, maybe the money that was... Is that how it works?
No, yeah, I don't think that's how it works.
No, but I mean, you see what I mean and why the residents are, and it needs, you know.
I'm sure we can do something for them. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks, Graham.
Thanks, Rosina. And next I've got Councillor Watson. Jeff.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much. I just want to say a couple of things. First of all, I can honestly say that this last year, I've had less concerns or issues than I think I've ever had before, despite all the actions that's going on. I don't get an awful lot of complaints about highways, and I think that's a good indication that the public think you're doing a good job. I certainly do. So I just thought you might like to know that. And I just want to complain about one little thing you said, Graham, in your introduction. You said that the work at Dial Place had been completed. I hope that was a slip of the tongue, because it is half the work still to be completed, and I hopefully that's all happening still. There's nothing changed on that, I hope.
It is, Jeff. I don't know if John Hunt has been in touch with you. I've spoken to him, and it is going ahead, probably in April.
Thank you. You don't know how good that feels that you are doing that. Thank you very much indeed. And that's all I've got to say.
Good.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff. Guy, you're next.
Thank you, Graham. I was going to ask about road signs. You've covered it. I mean, I've got quite a few road signs that are sort of dangling or they've rotted away at the floor level and they're propped up against the hedge. And I've been reporting them and not much has happened with them. So it's good to hear that you've got a plan in place for that, including some bus stop signs as well. I don't know if bus stop signs are your remit.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Because the one at South Road, Belford, is cable tied to the lamppost next to the bus stop. So it's there, but it's not very neat. Everyone's really happy with the dropped curb at the end of Broad Road at Sea Houses. Thank you for that. I've had a few emails thanking us for that, so that's good. And I've had a similar contrast issue, like Georgina mentioned, with the new footpath up to Belford Primary School. People are happy with the footpath, but they're now saying, oh, what about the road? Because the road looks a bit tatty as well. And there's actually a few deep holes next to where the chicane is. And I dropped myself in it really because I took a picture of it saying, isn't this great? And in the picture was a bit of road that looks a bit scabby as well. So I got jumped on a bit for that. So I don't know if you've got any works planned for outside Belford Primary School on the road, not the pavement, but the pavement looks great.
I'll take a look, Guy.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Graham. And just every time I report a pothole, it gets filled in the next day. So yeah, the lads are doing a really good job on that. Thank you.
Good. Please to hear it.
Something's going wrong in Alnwick, but never mind. That's I'm going to deal with that later. Thank you, Stephen. You're next.
Thank you, Gordon. Graham, it was just a couple of things. One might actually fall under Bob's area, if I'm honest, but you know, as a result of the diversion from the A696 into Elsdon,
yes,
there's been some significant damage done by the wagons to the village greens in Elsdon. And the parish council have been on to Chris Westerby. They sent an email last night. Chris will probably pass it on to you, but it's just to let you know that they're coming. And I mean, they've really, when they've been turning some of them corners, they've really torn up the village green. So it's going to need repairing at some point. The other thing is just, where are we with the Harwood situation? In terms of, I know Chris was going to speak to the forestry, but we've still got wagons doing things that they shouldn't be doing up there, and going through the village rather than using the actual designated routes. And I mean, you know what the state of the road's like up there now, because I know you were up there last week having a look at it. But if push comes to shove, we need to start considering if we're going to enforce that 7.5 ton limit.
Yeah, I think Chris was off at the back end of last week, Stephen, and possibly early this week. I'll chase him on that. I don't know where he got to with the logging company, but okay, it's in a hell of a state now, that road.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it as always.
Just one other thing while you're on, Stephen. I mentioned that we're looking to do some structural patching on the lower road. I've also arranged for someone to come in and chop the trees along that road as well.
Before I complain about it, as I do every year. Well, that'll benefit Trevor as well, because Trevor gets the same complaints I do. I mean, the pinch points for certainly down at Blackburn Bridge, which is on the border of mine and Trevor's patch, is one. And I know, because I get them as well as Trevor does, it's in Trevor's patch, is along by Brinkburn and that sharp turn down along there. So if you're on top of it, that's absolutely perfect, because I know I whinge about them every year, but that's fantastic. Thank you, Graham.
Okay.
Yes, Graham, I really appreciate that as well. You know,
okay,
it does affect Rothbury more than it does Longfram, but obviously I've got a lot of constituents along that road too, and they're very grateful for the work you're doing. Thank you.
Good.
Good. Thank you for that. Catherine, you're the next. You're the last, I think. Yes.
Well, thanks, Chair. Yeah, just a couple of things. You're doing a great job. The team are responding really well, Graham, so that's really appreciated. Just a couple of bugbears. The one is the pillar on Bank Hill. Just wondered about when that's going to be replaced, and also the lines at Golden Square roundabout. I think you said last time they were going to be replaced March or April, but
yeah,
yet to see that done.
I've got a note of that on my desk here, Catherine, about the Golden Square road markings. I'll chase that up. The highways inspector's off at the moment. I thought he was back this week, but he's actually back next week, so I'll chase him up when he comes back. And I'll also chase up
and the pillar
about the Bank Hill one.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Catherine. That's good. Well, that's very positive feedback, I think, from everyone. Graham, thank you very much. Can I also say, congratulate you for your excellent reply to the Civic Society about their rather long list of complaints, which are, in the scheme of things, not terribly major, but of course accumulate and build up a picture of places, parts of the town that look tatty for signage and things. Good reply. Thank you. That's been very helpful. And as you all know, Alnwick, the Bondgate Tower is closed, undergoing engineering inspections. That's had a major and adverse impact for residents along where the traffic's going. And I understand that Richard Mackenzie is looking at traffic flow issues and how we might manage them better if we end up having to close the tower again for long periods.
What do you think the solution is to that, Gordon, longer term?
Well, there isn't a solution other than to say, I think we should probably ban LGVs from going through a toll of any kind. And possibly think, and this is a think because there are adverse consequences unexpectedly sometimes, of one-way systems. So if you're going west, you go along Proto Street and Lisburn Street. And if you're going east, you can only come along Greenback down past the Tanners. That sounds good until you look at the possible consequences for residents who might have to increase traffic down minor roads. It's worth a look at, but and I think in the longer term, probably ban LGVs going through the tower at all. And also a really good positive suggestion was made by a member of the public. Oh, you know, that's quite a good one. This might not be you, but lights, the traffic, the pedestrian crossing between, from the playhouse to the other side of the road and vice versa is in the right place for pedestrians. But what happens, traffic gets jammed coming through the tower when they go red. To actually have complementary lights on the other side so that when the pedestrian lights go red, that stops the traffic going to the tower. I thought that was a really positive suggestion. Would I feed that to you?
No, if you can feed that to Neil Snowden.
Neil, I'll go to Neil with that. Right, thanks very much for that. Super. Right, I think you've done well. Thank you, Graham, for that, and thank you, everyone. I'll move on. Pleasure. All the best, and I'll move on to Bob. Bob, now you're going to tell us how things are with local services.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Since the last area committee, we've experienced some very difficult weather conditions, as you all know. The teams have had to cope with some ice and snow in order to service bins and keep the areas clean and tidy. And we've had to carry out essential winter grounds maintenance tasks along with highways colleagues. Weather conditions proved difficult to access some rural locations and some bin collections were missed. We managed to catch up fairly quickly and used a variety of methods to recover the situation. And thankfully, our efforts resulted in very few complaints about service delivery. Our need operatives have been deployed in several occasions to ensure that access to vaccination centres was maintained, and NCC's commitment to work alongside the NHS to face the challenges presented by the virus was maintained. On the need side, the winter works continues, but it's coming to an end shortly, and we'll be starting the summer grounds maintenance. In April, we are catching some of the additional cuts what we do for certain parish and town councils. We've had some challenging weather conditions, but the teams have coped well, as I've just said. We continue to work a 28-hour week during the winter period, but we're progressing through scheduled work has been kept up to date and ultimately pretty successful. Snow events meant that need staff were diverted to support colleagues in highways as well, and they were deployed to clear paths in high footfall areas. We're in the final stages of preparation for the upcoming grass cutting season. All grass cutting equipment is either serviced or scheduled to be serviced. We've started cutting grass this week. However, this is dependent on ground conditions. All seasonal ground staff for the coming months have been secured, so they're all waiting to start and just going through the checks to get them alongside our main guys. Weed control activities will be undertaken in-house again this year, and we will not use the blue dye again this year as we remain in the grip of the pandemic. I'm sure you can recall that this decision was made last year, and as we didn't want to create any additional anxiety to those who did not support the use of glyphosate. We're planning to trial of glyphosate alternatives this year. Options available to us are currently being assessed. We're setting a scheme up to assess the effectiveness of each of the products and schemes, and we'll be creating and hopefully a database where we can gather all that information and share that and our plans with yourselves soon. Street cleansing is basically business as usual, and we anticipate that the increase in footfall experienced last year due to the pandemic, in the staycation and people around the coastline will continue into this year. This will mean enhanced cleaning of public toilets and conveniences will continue, and additional litter picking, emptying of litter bins will be required again. We're going to keep that up. We're prepared for this should it happen I can't see, I can still see huge amounts of footfall down the coast. So we're planning that ahead of being hit, if you like. This was catch-up work for the sweepers. As a result of the cold snap, we had to either stand them down, we're catching up on schedules again. The brushes lose the effectiveness in freezing conditions and vegetation sticks to the ground. We'll see this, we'll stand the machines down and catch up at a later date, which is what we're doing. We're pretty much back on track to increase the hours that we've worked. On the waste side, residual recycling or recovery from the recent bad weather is complete. Business is as usual on the waste collection services. Garden waste collections have started. Increasing the house customer list numbers have meant additional tweaking of rounds, and it's been required to accommodate quite a few more customers, surprisingly. Obviously, people are spending more time in their gardens if they decide to take up the option of the garden waste scheme. The price will stay the same this year at £43. We will be calculating the numbers later in the season, but they continue to grow quite rapidly. I think in excess of 250 in the Alnwick area alone, which is really good. That's what we want to see. And as reported the last time, we're continuing with the glass trial. We've now had 4 collections. Possibly the 5th is due. Presentation rates and yields remain encouraging, and a review will be undertaken after the 9th collection, and a report produced summarising the effectiveness of the scheme. This will be around about July. We'll pull that together. Sorry, we've had 5 collections in the Alnwick area now, and over the 5 collections, we've collected over 35.5 tonnes of glass. So it's quite a bit. It's proven well. So we'll continue with that. Hopefully it'll prove well, and we'll expand that. We'll get the figures together, and we'll probably discuss that later on in the year. And that's about it, Gordon.
Yeah, that's comprehensive. Thank you so much. I've got a number of people in this order. I'll get mine in very quickly, but I've got Trevor, Kath, Stephen, Georgina, and Guy. So my quick one is about litter, I'm afraid. And it's I'm a town councillor as well as the county councillor, and it's become a big issue locally. However, it's had a positive outcome in that volunteers have formed an Alnwick litter picking group, and they've got 50 in it. And of course, at the moment, they can't pick as groups. The law doesn't permit that. But we're signing out kit from the town council to individuals, and it's actually beginning to have a noticeable result. And I'm grateful for your cooperation initially, like you always, Bob. I'm wondering if this is worth further consideration with volunteers, how we actually coordinate volunteer activity with official council clearances. Because I've been saying for the time being, if these groups can just put all the litter that they're collecting bags near a council bin, it'll be automatically collected by the teams when they go on their refuse collection schedules. But if there isn't a bin nearby, put them somewhere quite close to a road where a vehicle can get to them, let me or the town council know, and I will ask for them to be collected by the county council on its rounds. I also think there's room for a bit more coordination, and I'm speaking with my own town council at the moment. In terms of this, we've got 3 employees. We could actually coordinate activities quite well and bring in the voluntary groups. So I think there's room for imaginative work here. I think it's a bigger issue than I had expected. And when I myself go walking, I've discovered far more litter in the town centre is well cleaned, by the way. That is not the area of criticism. It's the residential and peripheral areas, especially the lanes and parts of the highway. They are really bad. And if I'm saying that, and I've noticed they are bad, so volunteers are actually helping with this. And I think we've got to coordinate them. So those are my points about that, Bob. Do you see a problem with that?
No, I totally agree with you, Gordon. And I think simplifying the process, it is basically just an email to an officer, one of my guys, and we can get that picked up pretty quickly. Just agree a spot. Volunteers are very valuable, and it is more, it's more visible this time of year. We generally do the verges and coordinate some of the roadways this time of year when we tend to get like bad weather, the foliage has died back, it exposes it more, so we tackle it around about this time of year, every year. But the volunteers are absolutely essential.
Yes.
Totally support them, and we need to simplify it, just an email or a contact number, and we respond to that within, you know, the same day, if not very early the next year. It's not going to be anything that's going to be onerous on us to do.
No, it's not, and it's got a good community support, and the town council is selling out litter picking kit, you know, the tongs, the gloves, etc. And we've got 100 sets, and that's been advertised. So I'm hopeful that the community support will be excellent. But thank you for that. Yeah. Right, next we've got Trevor.
Yes. Well, mine is the thank you. Again, it's on litter picking, Bob. Just to say, you know, Carlo and I have been out a lot of times. We've collected 100 bags of rubbish now from the A1, and it's just to thank you for being there to collect them. You know, we've got a link with Carol Hesse. Obviously, she gives NCC the location, and you collect them up. But you know, again, a little bit like Gordon, it is very frustrating. You know, Carlo and I started doing the little lanes, we did. But then, you know, the drive into Alnwick now, Long Fram into Alnwick, honestly, I find, you know, we have cleared bits, which, you know, great to drive along. But, you know, when the roadsides are absolutely full of litter, which, as you say, you know, no grass growing at the minute, you know, in a couple of months, it'll all be hidden again. But, you know, it is good to bottom it out and get rid of the rubbish. It really is. And, you know, it's so important for our tourists. But, you know, what I will say too is, I don't know if we can just give a little message to highways, because, you know, when Carlo and I cleaning out the dike backs, you know, you get sandbags, you get those orange bollards, and also some metal work for the road signage. So, you know, that is particularly frustrating. You know, that's us generating our own little bit of litter. And if we could just have a word with highways always to, you know, take everything away rather than hide it in the grass beneath the hedge, that would be great. That would be great. But, you know, essentially, I'm saying thank you for the support you're giving. You know, it'd be great to get more and more people out there tidying up our countryside, because it's a huge job for the council, and, you know, volunteer help is so appreciated. And my second point was just about Long Framlington Cemetery around the village green. You know, you have helped us a lot in the past. Yeah. And I was just wondering, sometime in the future, if we might have another visit there to cut down some of the trees growing out of the grave, little gardens there. That would be great. But generally, you know, I'm very happy with what NCC is doing. Thank you, sir.
Yep. Thanks, Trevor. Equally, thank you for carrying out the litter picks. I've seen some pictures from Carol, and I really appreciate that as well. And we'll get a look at Northumberland, definitely the cemetery and the green. We'll pay a visit there. That's not a problem.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Trevor. Next we have Kath.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Bob. Just to really, I know we've had lots of correspondence on the litter issues, and I know you're meeting with Town Council to try and combat some of the issues. And it's good that we've got volunteers that are picking up as well. So because, you know, there's been some antisocial behaviour where people have been you know, damaging the bins and throwing the litter all over the place. So I know it's a problem, but anyway, so that's that. The other thing is, I sent you an email on the flags. There were two missing, the England and Northumberland flags up at the borders, and I wondered if they've been replaced yet. I haven't been by. And the other thing was the signage, the cleaning the signage throughout the town and Berwick in general, because a lot of the signs are quite dirty, a lot of green, you know, mud and all sorts on. And I think you said you were going to get someone to do that. So I just wondered how you're getting on. And thanks very much for all your support.
Yeah. After the flags were replaced the day after you reported them, the new ones went straight up. An update on the North Road, and we're looking at I'm putting the specification and the measurements together for a cargo bike, an electric one, with so we can get turned. We did trial the quad bike. We trialed a number of different things here along that road, but my fear is some will end up in the Tweed if we're not very careful with the vehicle. So we are looking at an electric cargo bike, and to appreciate what you're saying about the steep incline up the park. So hopefully we can move that forward this Friday, and I'll let you know as soon as we can get some details on whether it's going to fit. It's through the archway at the bottom of the park where we're having the difficulties, and but I'll keep you up to date with that.
Good, thank you very much. Thank you.
And the signage, the cleaning up of the signage.
Signage, we clean what signage we can. Predominantly, it's a highways remit, but if we can do it, we'll do it with Graham. We work hand in hand with Graham.
Right. So was it Graham I sent it to then? About cleaning them up.
What was that, Catherine? Sorry.
Just cleaning up of all the signs, throughout the town and on the outskirts of Berwick, actually, all throughout. A lot of the signs have got green mold and dirt on. They're really quite dirty.
Yeah, that's part of the strategy that I'm putting together with this science team that I want in place next year.
Okay.
Good. That's about. Thanks so much. Thank you, Catherine. And Stephen, you're next.
I just want to say I'm tempted to actually come and help Trevor and Carlo clear the A1 because I've seen the food that is available for those that do it. It looks very delicious, Trevor.
I'll make you a sandwich anytime, Stephen.
But I just want to say it's one of them things. It's very much on the border of mine and Trevor's patch, Bob. But thank you for your swift action and the public protection team as well, who I know you worked with, to get the fly tipping moved out of the lay-by near Blackburn Bridge that appeared in the last week. I know some of the farmers around there, and I think we may potentially have caught the individual on dash cam footage flinging the things into the river. So hopefully there'll be a positive outcome with that one.
Excellent.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Stephen. Georgina, you're next. Am I muted? No, I'm not. Georgina.
Thank you. Couple of things. Right, bins. I don't understand, particularly when the town council get involved, when you're talking about bins. In the scheme of things, it doesn't really seem that complex, but you think you're asking for a nuclear power station or other analogies when you're requesting bins. And there seems to be an issue of bins being removed, not being replaced. And there's great work being done on 5 Arches and lots of plans for that and to encourage people to have picnics. And there's no bins there. And when suggested, should put a bin there, there seem to be all these, it's too far away from the road to collect, of ease of collecting. So I don't know if you've got any specific comments about 5 Arches, but just generally why it does seem, of course, you can't have loads and loads of bins everywhere, and they do need to be emptied, but you just think a sensible, strategic, and if there's a park and there's a bin. I do agree with having, I don't see the point of dog bins, just have bins. They're small and unhygienic and you worry about getting covered in them. So just normal bins. I don't know why the town council seems to have such an issue about it. And then just a second point is, could we sometime, I could be involved or not, but could we sometime have a walk and inspection of Highcliffe and particularly the Eastcliff estates? It's a large estate and there are some challenges, but there just seems to be a bit spike again in complaints about general upkeep and litter and so on. So sometime, I know not tomorrow, it's not bang top of the priority with everyone, but could we just have another sort of inspection and a walk around?
Yeah, absolutely. If I can just explain around the litter bins, they're a town and parish council asset. We empty them on their behalf. Whereas we haven't got any issues with, if we've got the resource, we will empty them and we will allow them. But it's their decision if they want to add bins or take them away or relocate them. We're very flexible around that. But what I wouldn't want is for one of our operators to have to haul a black bin back, X amount, 100 yards or 150 yards over his back, whether that be with either dog poo or just the general litter. The dog poo is declassified, so it's classed as litter, and it goes into those bins. So whilst there is a remit, we're not saying exactly on the roadside, George, we're saying within a decent carrying distance for the guys. So it's got to be a sensible approach, but we're not against anything, and we very rarely refuse to incorporate anything within the schedules. And Highcliffe, I'd be absolutely delighted to have a walk around Highcliffe and Eastcliff again. There's a few issues what I keep bringing up with Benicia, quite a bit on which is their remit, what we're picking up on. Certain areas in Highcliffe where I would like all the flagged areas took up. I mean, these all drying areas, big swathes of them, what are basically concrete jungles and pointless. I've even offered to meet them halfway and grass them over for them and take that on. So we haven't had as many contract meetings with Benicia due to the situation. But once they kick off again, that is still on the agenda, Georgina. So we'll take out with them as well. But happy to have a walk around with you. It's far better to do that.
Great. Yeah. Thank you.
I did mute myself. Sorry. Thanks, Georgina. Guy, you are next.
Yeah. Thanks, Paul. You might have seen in the paper that Northumberland Parish Council are going to buy a load of seagull flaps for the bins in Northumberland, and they're going to fit them themselves, which is they're their assets, so that's fine. What they've asked is whether we could clean them and whether we could clean them on a regular basis, because they feel that one of the issues with smell coming from the bins is just the accumulation of bin juice, for want of a better word, in and around the sort of bin area. Is that a service that we provide, or is that something they would have to do themselves?
Guy, we can do it. It depends on the frequency. We can certainly help out. We've actually just bought a steam cleansing unit, what goes on the back of a trailer, with a compressor, so it's independent. So and it's got a power wash there. So hopefully we can help out. We've discussed the frequency. If it's every week, it might be a bit more difficult. But if it's a couple of times a year, 2, 3, 4 times a year, I'm sure we can accommodate that. Even if it's the parish funding a bit of overtime for the guys to do it or the operatives to do it, and we supply the equipment and everything that goes with it, just to keep it down to a minimum. But I'll certainly work with the parish. It's certainly something we can do.
With that in mind, do you think, this is cheeky, do you think we could do that before the tourist season starts?
Yes, I'm just waiting for the final bit of training to come together with the power wash and the trailer. Once that's done, we should be out in the next few weeks. Yeah.
Good.
That's great. Thank you, Bob. I'll pass it.
Got that. Thanks, Guy. Thanks for that. And finally, Jeff.
First of all, Chair, I apologise. I think this is probably a question for Graham rather than Bob. So, Bob, you might have a free ride from me.
Good. I'm just going to mute.
Graham, when they're talking about signs, reminded me. As you come into Amble from Acklington, there's the big welcome to Amble sign, which says, harbour, leisure, swimming pool, etc. That was very badly damaged by what I presume was a road traffic accident several months ago, probably 6 months ago. And it's just not been replaced. Now, the first question you might ask is, well, did you report it, Jeff? And the answer to your unasked question is no, because I thought it was so obvious. The traffic inspectors go around and half of them live in Amble. I thought it would have been seen and automatically happen that it was repaired or replaced, but it hasn't been. And I just wondered, you know, is there a system that we have? I mean, I think the answer has got to be what I would have thought. Is there a system when the traffic inspectors go around and see damaged road signs that they automatically do something about it? And if it's not a system, then perhaps we should have it. And lastly, I hope you made a note of the sign that I'm talking about, because I would like to see that repaired. So apologies for asking you after you'd finished, Graham.
Where exactly is that, Jeff? Is it on the way to Acklington out of Amble?
No, other way around. From Acklington into Amble, it's right, actually almost on the, it's where the chicanes, just before the chicanes.
Oh yes, I know what you mean. Yeah.
On the left hand side.
To answer your question, yes, the inspectors should be picking up signs. This is why I'm putting this new gang in place, because to me, I'm driving around and I'm seeing so many damaged signs that I know it's not happening the way it should be.
Thank you. I'm glad you recognise the issue. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, everyone. Thank you also. Nobody's raised dog mess. How astounding. And thank you, but no, it's too late. So thank you very much indeed, Bob and Graham, for coming along and answering these questions very satisfactorily. You're both doing a good job, and I'm not just saying that. I think we all think the same. Thank you very much indeed to you and your teams.
Thank you.
We'll move on now. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
We're on to item 8, which is frankly informational. It's the members' local improvement schemes. I don't suppose we've got anything to discuss about that. 9, Berwick Regeneration Commission, which is standing out on the agenda. Is there anything to say about that?
Yes, Gordon, thank you.
Yes, Catherine?
Yes, Tony's not here today, couldn't make the meeting, but anyway, I just wanted to mention the really good news for Berwick today with the signing of the Borderlands exclusive growth deal. And so this is fantastic. And many thanks to all the officers and councillors that have worked hard, and especially Janice Rose, who has been living and breathing this deal for Northumberland with the other councillors. So the next step is a design brief, and that will be in April or May for the new maltings. So very good news today.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Catherine. I'm sure that's noted, will be passed on. Jet, did you just forget to bring your hand down? There's an extra question. Thank you.
It was just when you were talking about the member small schemes, which you passed over.
Oh yeah, I did quickly. Go on. You may go.
This is a very old report. I mean, I've got at least 2, if not 3, actions have taken place since the 1st of January. Just, you know, in case anybody incorrectly thinks that I'm not going to spend my budget, I can assure you that every penny of my budget will be spent before this election. Otherwise, I would feel it was cheating members of my ward if I didn't spend it. That's allocated to them, and I'm going to make sure I do. So I just wanted to make that point before you moved on, Gordon. Thank you.
That point is noted. Thank you. I don't think there's anybody here could probably explain why it ends where it does end, but I do note that point. Graham, Guy, did you have your hand up? Or you just?
Yes, just the same point. I was a bit surprised to read it and see that according to that, thousands left, but I know I'm all spent up. So it is out of date.
It's out of date. You know what I'll do? I'll ask you. Can we advise? Is it Sarah Hudson, who produces the reports, to actually ensure that every member gets an up-to-date email informing us, and I think everybody else of where we are before we go to PERDA. So I will ask that to be done. What have you done, Trevor? You've done something to my screen.
Sorry, Gordon.
That's all right. I thought you'd taken over the meeting. That's all right.
I had a point. Can I raise it?
Oh, you can. Sorry, I didn't see your hand up. My fault.
Hands up there. It was just, again, you know, over the very large amounts of unspent money that Councillor Thorne has got at his disposal. They are all long-term schemes. They're all schemes that are taking a long time to deliver because they're fairly controversial, but the money is being spent. The 35,000 is earmarked for projects. So again, you know, I don't want my electorate to think I'm not spending the cash, because
I
see.
Thank you.
Right, if you, the honest answer is you haven't spent it. I've got some schemes that I could do with some more money for. So.
No, it's going to the show model area.
Oh no. Well, right. Okay, I did skip over that item too quickly. Sorry, Stephen. You want to speak?
Yeah, it was just to say I don't have that problem. I can easily spend it in my area, and I was about to offer Trevor if he didn't. But one of the things I would just say is I know we're all about to run for election, and in the past we've had over the years, and Gordon and Trevor, I'll remember this, where we've had underspends. I'm not sure, and I like to think we're a bit better than what we're seeing going on in the southeast of Northumberland, where there's a bit of a witch hunt for those members that haven't spent up. But when you dig into it, there are longer term schemes, as Trevor has outlined, as I'm sure there are in other divisions as well. It's not an issue as long as the member has got something committed, as Trevor has outlined, and I think we're a bit better than what we're seeing going on elsewhere in the county with regards to it. But I can understand why people are wanting to make the point that they are spent up or committed.
Yes, thank you, Stephen. I probably should have read that more closely before I skipped over it. I haven't even looked at my own, but I know I've spent every single penny. My last £5,000 has gone to Alnwick Town Football Club, and so if I should be only having any, I'm surprised to learn because it's all gone. Thank you. We'll move on if we may. We passed over Kath's Regeneration Commission. Thank you, that's noted. Local Area Council Work Programme. To note the latest version of agreed items, but of course, agreed items, the next meeting is a planning meeting, and it's during PERDA. And so I think we've got little to add, I suspect, but I won't jump too quickly. Anybody wish to make a point about item 10? No. In that case, I will move on to item 11. Date of next meeting, 2 p.m, Thursday the 20th of April. I look forward to seeing you then, but it'll be Trevor chairing this for planning. Is there any urgent business? None's been notified to me. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen and officers. Been a good meeting and not too bad either, an hour and a half. Thank you. See you all soon. Bye now.